Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Pitchside Podcast channel. I am your host, the HOD of the PSP. Like, share, comment on this video, of course, subscribe to the channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates from the match recaps and other content on this channel. Side PSP on Twitter, Pitchside on Instagram, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or any other platform to receive the podcast and catch it at www.webreadsports.com. Please do not overhype football. That is my message really for this game. Do not overhype football. Do not overhype the games of football. This was a disappointment. This was a clear case of a disappointing game. The score exactly was, it was pretty comprehensive considering both defenses were, really terrible heading into this game. With the injuries that Liverpool had and United, with the inconsistency that they have in their defence, certainly, this is a result that, again, comprehensible for both defences. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer turned on the traditional Ole Gunnar Solskjaer mode, which is, United being defensive, relying on the counter, and for 60 to 65 minutes, they weren't in the game, really. They didn't have any sort of attempt in the first half. They were pretty much trying to hold the play, almost, because Liverpool were playing really well in the first half, but their decision making, and we talked about this in their games against West Ham and in West Brom, and Newcastle, their game, their decision making was really, really, bad. The final touch in the final third is just, ridiculous at certain points. It's very, very horrendous. This is now the fourth game in a row where the fourth game where they couldn't score. Only scoring 1 in 4. This is really, 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 really bad, and it stings for a lot of reasons, because they had situations, they had opportunities, they had spaces in the first half behind the midfield of Man United, who wasn't exactly working at his 100% best. Pogba probably was the best of the three, but certainly McTominay and Fred didn't have the best of games in front of the likes of Thiago and Wijnaldum. Shaqiri was making all sorts of smart movement, but again, the decision making from the trio up front was really horrendous at a certain point. They shoot when sometimes they need to pass, and they pass when they need to shoot. It's a mess. It was a mess, and United didn't capitalise on anything of that. It almost felt like they accepted the draw in the first half, and for about, again, 15 to 20 minutes in the second half, they seemed to be acceptant as well of the draw and looked like they might, accept the point. Introducing Cavani in the second half, was about, a positive change that United needed, and certainly that turned their fortunes with him linking up with Bruno Fernandes and, moving, I think, all of the team forward, pretty much trying to bounce on the mistakes in the Liverpool defence. They certainly had opportunities to show for it. All of their shots on target were in the second half, by the way, none in the first half, which, if anything, translates why United, have always bad first halves in their games. Liverpool on their behalf, I think, again, they were really, really ineffective. The final touch, the final decision making was really, really bad. And, in the second half, they were even worse because they didn't have shots on target in the second half that much. They had only 1 or 2, compared to United, who had 5 shots on target in the second half. By the end of the game, both sides seemed acceptant of a draw. I don't want to really talk about this game a lot because it doesn't have a lot in it to talk about as, a meat of the subject, really. You could not find a lot of entertainment to talk about in this game, but certainly it was a game of tactics, meticulously planned, I think, from both coaches, particularly from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, despite the fact that he's entering this game with a legitimate chance of going 6 points top of the table. Like, seriously, this is now, I think, the biggest winner of this whole round of matches is potentially going to be Man City when they defeat Crystal Palace later on, and Leicester City as well, who are narrowing the gap on the top of the table now to 3 points and 4 points potentially for City later on, who probably will narrow it even down to 1 point or 2 points. I don't know exactly, I didn't look up the table, but this game didn't serve any of the two teams and certainly would not serve United. Liverpool will not be happy. This is again the 4th game in a row, and they only scored once in those 4. This is the 4th game where their finishing feels so horrendous and the front 3 seems so ineffective. In my opinion, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, obviously by the end of the game he was convinced again with the point. I think that's what he wanted from the start. the setup, the way Martial was too defensive at certain points, getting a lot behind and ball tracking, of course. Rashford didn't do the same. Him and Bruno Fernandes were not exactly defending. It was a 4-4-2 in disguise, really, because Martial and Pogba were like sort of wingers on the left and right, doing the defensive job, and trying to start the attacks forward. Certainly Paul Pogba was more, doing that kind of job, trying to hold the rhythm and hold the ball and try to make the transition forward. Rashford and Fernandes were, staying forward. Fernandes was neutralised pretty much for the first half. Only in the second half, when Cavani came on, and then, later on Greenwood came on, he had the chance to link up even more. And the last 15 minutes or so, United had some licks to snatch the winner in the game. Pogba certainly came close with the save from Alisson. Overall, again, a mostly disappointing game, where United, I think, got what they needed. They didn't lose against Anfield. Liverpool, they don't win against United. And, this was a perfectly fine score for what the game was. Mostly one-sided until the latter moments where United tried to put themselves back into the map. No team, I think, we can call themselves, beneficiaries of this draw. Maybe United more than Liverpool, considering the game is away from home. But no viewer will be happy watching this game. Again, please do not overhype football. I mean, this was a case of overhyping the games to a ridiculous extent. People were expecting this game to be open. Certainly it wasn't open. And it was a goalless draw. I think, very reflective of the nature of the game. That's all I had to say. Like, share, comment on this video, subscribe to the channel, enable notifications to receive all the updates. Start PSP, find me there on Twitter, PitchSidepod on Instagram. Listen to the podcast on all podcast listening platforms. I was your boy, the HOD of the PSP, and out of that disappointment, I will see you soon after the Juventus versus Inter game, hopefully, and goodbye.